What's up, everybody? Today is very special topic because most likely you have a very similar dream and goal to me, as I once did. If you are a wrestler, most likely, if I walked into your room, I would ask you the simple question, what are your goals? And you would probably answer with, win a state title. Matter of fact, if I asked how many of you want to win a state title, most of you guys would say that is your goal. Most of the hands would go up in the air. When I was just a young kid, I really looked up to all these guys that my dad had coached at Lakeside High School. I kind of, in a lot of ways, being a young kid, I kind of idolized all these guys that, work really hard in the wrestling room, and then, I'd see them go on and they'd win a state title, and I'd get to watch them jump up into my dad's arms and celebrate and point up to the crowd or flex, and those were some really special memories that just kind of got ingrained in my head when I was a little kid. Now, my dad being coach and all, and maybe some of you guys would say, him having me around at all those tournaments was by design to hopefully, someday help shape my life as well in the sport of wrestling or through the sport of wrestling. And I grew up with an immediate passion and want and desire to wrestle. So some of you guys are out there and you guys feel the exact same way as I do. And some of you guys are just checking out the sport for the first time. And, my mirrors weren't up there. Sorry, I had to fix those. I'm out driving, obviously, right now. But anyway, get back to the story. Some of you guys have the dream of being a state champ. And some of you guys have dreamt it from the time you were little. And I just hope you don't let that state title win or lose define you. And I think that's the big message here, is understanding that it's the journey and it's the pursuit of that title, and it's the process at which you attack that dream that defines the champion. A lot of guys, my dad coached throughout the years, they didn't necessarily win the state title, but now today they're great fathers. They went off to do big things in the Navy or Army, or they became doctors, or all sorts of amazing stories of guys that weren't necessarily state champions that stood on top of the podium, but understood the pursuit, and they then took that into their life. Ultimately, what it comes down to is true commitment, and you only have true commitment if you really believe that you can be the best, or that you can accomplish whatever that goal is that you're chasing. And I believed it. I believed it 100%. And I went into my freshman year. I was only 83 pounds, and I had to drink water so I could weigh 89 pounds. So a lot of days I'd come in like 84 pounds, 83 pounds, and I would drink water on the scale before the match, right during weigh-ins. I would drink water until I weighed 89. This was hard. I had these huge gut full of water, and but it was the only way I was allowed to wrestle 103 in the state of Washington. You had to weigh 89 pounds or more. And so at freshman year, I can easily say in a lot of ways I was undersized, but it was no excuse. I definitely still believed I could be a state champ and had dreamt of it since I was a little kid. And so I went on to wrestle that year, and this is tough for me to recall those memories, but basically I got myself into a placing round match, and ended up I want to say 5th or 7th place, 5th place, I think. Yeah, 5th place. And I had some good matches and I had some bad matches. Ultimately, there's a couple where I just got out-horsed. Maybe technically I was ready, but, my body, I just wasn't big enough. So, onward goes the dream and the work towards winning the state title the next year. I mean, I can even remember right after that, I was immediately, back to training and excited about, trying to chase a state title. I wasn't burnt out in any way. Matter of fact, I don't even know if I ever believed in being burnt out, just because I loved the sport so much, and I truly believed I was going to be a state champ. So for me, it only made sense to keep going. And I kept going, and honestly, it was becoming a state champion that I was really focused on every single day. And I think in some ways this is good, and in some ways it's not so good, and that's why I'm sharing this story. Is I was going into that sophomore year, my sophomore season, and I think I only had one loss, if any, going into the state tournament. And I had a great state tournament. I won my first, 4 matches. I was into the passed through the semis, and I was wrestling in the finals, and had beaten some tough kids. And that year, going into that state tournament, a week before the state tournament, I threw a partner of mine in a head and arm, and when we landed, I actually broke my ribs. I separated my lower ribs, so I wrestled the whole state tournament in a rib cage, just kind of locking my ribs in, and had a great tournament still, and made the state finals. And I was wrestling this kid, and essentially I got beat. I got beat by a kid that, quite honestly, I never thought I would have lost to. Later on that freestyle season, I definitely I proved that I should have never lost to him, and beat him up pretty good. And it was a heartbreaking moment. I remember just losing the finals, and honestly, after that time, I kind of was just frustrated and didn't understand why, and kind of was asking all the questions like, why me? Why I was, in my questioning my faith, like, why God? Like, why does this happen to me? And then going into my junior year, another great year of training, and undefeated going to the state tournament, and I make it into the state finals again. This year, another big obstacle to overcome. I'm throwing up constantly before weigh-ins, and I catch a fever. I'm I don't know, I would say 5 pounds underweight when I actually weighed in. And so then I'm thinking about that, and that's kind of bothering me. But again, no excuse. I changed my mind, changed my perspective, and I was still in pursuit of being a state champ. So boom, 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 I'm punched myself another ticket to the state finals, only to find that I'm wrestling the exact same guy I lost to the year before. And this time for sure, yeah, I mean, there's some nerves in my blood, kind of pumping through my body, but I knew for a fact I had put in more work, and I was ready to win this match. And it comes down to kind of a controversial deal, and big mess with the referees and the coaches, and everybody's involved, and it was a big old mess. And I ended up losing the match by a point, and lose to the kid again. He finds a way to beat me again, and this was just heartbreaking and heart-wrenching. And I gotta tell you guys this, because immediately after that, I was crushed. I actually started running sprints at the Tacoma Dome in Washington, and I just was running back and forth, and quite honestly, my coaches didn't even know what to do. They had seen how hard I'd worked, and they didn't know why I was losing that match, and why that happened. But it did, and you know what? I did one of the worst things you could have done, is I let that define me. And I think that's a big reason why I lost some of those state titles, is because I had lost a vision of the process and the journey making me a champion. Instead, I only referred to a champion being somebody that was actually standing on top of the podium. Now, make no mistake, there's winning and there's losing, and in our sport that is very important. And so I don't want you to get this message confused, but ultimately it was I was fixated on only that. And so I was crushed. I was vomiting after sprinting like crazy, and just so frustrated. I couldn't even believe I was going to go back to training again, and without a state title, without being that kid in the room with the state title. And I was just lost. And so later that year, I was supposed to go to the Fargo National Tournament, and I had beaten a couple top guys in the country. Coming out of, I think it was my freshman year or sophomore year, I had placed second at Fargo Nationals. So I knew I was a top guy, and I knew I should, do well at the Fargo National Tournament. So I'm down at the Olympic Training Center, and I'm training, and I'm back at it, and I'm chasing the dream again. I still have 1 year left in high school, I'm at the Olympic Training Center. I'm training, and then all of a sudden, I finish that camp, and I come home, and I'm just gonna go out on a quick spin bike ride. Yeah, I'm just going out on a quick spin bike ride. And my mom, at the time, she was riding her bike a lot, and she would unclip that front wheel after she was done. That's just something you do. And she actually left it unclipped. She had it unclipped, and I didn't know, and I never thought about like, I'm gonna clip it, on. I just jumped on thinking it was ready. I was riding for about 10 minutes, and then all of a sudden I hit a little rock, and that front wheel popped off, and I fly over the top, and I snap my collarbone in half, break my collarbone a week before, the national tournament. And I remember just thinking like, man, this is like just a brutal sport. Like, I remember just thinking like, I can't believe this is just crap keeps happening to me, broken ribs, sick, snapped my collarbone. And it was all for a reason, and it was because I needed to find who I was and what I was doing and why I was chasing it. And you really got to find your purpose for what you're doing, because once you do that, it's going to help you in your pursuit. So for me, here's what it was. I had a dad that woke up every single morning and wrote in his devotion, and never pushed his faith on me, but was also never scared to just get up in the morning and do what he knew was right in his life. So he'd get in the Word, get into the Bible, and he would write out his devotion, and some days he'd share it with us, and some days he wouldn't. And but more than anything, he'd always just show us so much love all the time, just this constant pursuit of love towards his kids. He had 4, so I had 3 sisters, and it was just all the time. And then this other guy was a mentor in my life. His name was Tim Kruger. And he always showed me a lot of love too. It just never mattered whether I won or lost. He just loved the type of person I was, and he knew I was a champion, and he loved being, he loved just loving on me and really, mentoring me in my life as I was a young kid trying to figure things out. And so what he was doing was he thought I was going to the Fargo National Tournament that year, and he wanted to support me. And so what he did is he jumped in on his motorcycle, and he drove out the week before, right when I broke my collarbone. He drove his motorcycle, it was like 4 days or something, on his motorcycle, 3 or 4 days, all the way out to Fargo, North Dakota, and it's the most miles he had ever rode on his motorcycle. And he was out there to watch me, wrestle in this tournament, hopefully win a national title. And I have to call him and tell him what happened, and I'm crying, I'm in tears, and he just tells me like, Levi, don't worry about it, bud. I love you, man. You're gonna be all right. You're gonna be okay. Don't worry about it. And so he jumps on his motorcycle, and he heads back to 9 Mile Falls, Spokane, Washington. And it's like a couple days later, and I wake up, and big motorcycle sound comes into my driveway, and it's Tim Kruger. And immediately when I saw him, I just I was kind of like, how the heck did you get back here? And he just reached out to me and opens up his arms and gives me a hug, and just tells me how much he loves me. And I was just amazed. I just couldn't believe that he had just rode his bike. I was like, what are you doing? And I love you too, man. Like, what the heck are you thinking? And he's like, I'm here for you, man. And tomorrow we're getting on a bus. I said, what? What are you talking about? He's like, we're going to Malibu. And I go up to my mom. I'm so mad at my mom. Like, I told you I wasn't going to Malibu. I told you I wasn't going to no Christian camp. And, I was frustrated at the time with God. And I just felt like, man, nothing in my life has really worked out because everything was defined by wrestling, right? Everything was defined by a title. And so anyway, long story short, I jump in that van, which then turns into a ferry ride, which then turns into we get off of this big boat. It's 23 hours of travel. We get off this boat and we're on this island up in Canada, and there's all these people cheering for us, and they're excited that we're there, and they're gonna serve us all week while we basically have fun and learn about Jesus a little bit and just have a blast, really playing more than anything. Well, in all that travel, I began to think about all these people that just, poured love into my life. And I began to think about, like, man, I want to be kind of more like those people. I want to be more like them. I want to have, more of that, those characteristics in my life. And I just wanted to be more like them, period. I just wanted to be more like them. They were big mentors in my life, and I wanted to be more like them. And so I figured out what they had that I didn't really have, and I might have thought I had it, but I didn't. And that was Jesus. They had a relationship with Jesus. Okay? Jesus was definitely the singular thing, the singular person that was involved in every person that I looked up to as a mentor. Okay? There was some sort of tie-in and some sort of connection with Jesus Christ, the Lord and Savior, and He was helping guide their life, and He was living by, Jesus was living vicariously through them. It was pouring out of their veins the love, it was the joy, the happy times, the smiles, the loving the process. They knew every single day that they were going to wake up and do things a certain way. And I didn't have that. I just went hard, and I just wanted to win a state title. And I really needed something more solid, a stronger foundation. For some of you guys, that's family. For some of you guys, that's Jesus Christ, that's God. Some of you guys, it's your faith, okay? But, for me, that's what I needed. I needed my faith to be rock solid. So what I did is I went ahead and I made that adjustment in my life. And when I did that, I really started to shift my perspective in all my training. I understood that I was competing for something more than myself. I was representing somebody more than myself. I stopped being a punk on the mat. I stopped, shoving kids out of bounds. I just hustled back to the center, tried to score points. I knew that my job was to score points and wrestle as hard as I possibly could. I thought of myself as a warrior for Jesus Christ. I thought of myself as, as somebody that, if I'm going to go out and represent Team Jesus, how am I going to perform today? And so I wanted to share that with you guys because that doesn't necessarily mean everything is going to go happy-go-lucky and everything's going to go well in your life. But for me, what that meant was I went on to wrestle my senior year. We finally got the state title. Started getting recruited by a couple different colleges, landed a college scholarship. Our team won the state title. My dad won Coach of the Year. A lot of really cool and amazing things happened, but they meant a lot to me. But honestly, I could have lost them. I could have lost those matches, and it would have been hard for me, but I would have bounced back extremely fast because I knew that those wins and losses didn't define me. And that's what I want you guys to know is your wins and losses and the goal that you're chasing, it doesn't define you. But your commitment to that goal, your commitment to go all in, that is what can, change everything in your life. Everything. It can change you, from becoming a boy to a man. Someday when you marry somebody, you're a better man than many of the others probably around you. Because you got something solid in your life, because you got something, a foundation. You're going to have better grades, okay? You're going to be a better, son or brother or sister to the people around you. And these are the things that I don't do perfectly, and I'm not preaching to you as somebody that does all this stuff perfectly, but what I am telling you guys is that was my story about, chasing a state title and how I let that state title define me for so long. But until I realized that it wasn't that title that was going to define me, I didn't understand what my purpose was. And then once I figured it out, I knew what my purpose was. I knew that I was blessed and grateful and blessed with the opportunity to be able to wrestle. And so why not let it all out there? Why not let it fly? Why not get rid of the nerves that are in your body? Okay, so if you're chasing a state title, if you're chasing a national title, whatever you're chasing, I've seen it at all different levels. Okay, you gotta understand your purpose. Okay, and you gotta know why you're doing what you're doing. Okay, and then you gotta have a rock, something to stand strong on, win or lose, something that you know you represent. You represent. And man, if you can get this right, a lot of good things are gonna be happening in your life. And just know that sometimes you're gonna be right on the right path, and then sometimes you're gonna get knocked off the path. And don't panic. Just get ready to get back on that horse and climb that mountain. Climb that mountaintop towards some of your goals. So guys, I'm just out driving today. I've had a couple practices today already, training in my garage. And, you know, I think about those kids that are training right now with me. And I think about myself when I was young and when I was chasing those dreams. Some of the tools that I can offer you guys now to help you accomplish your goals are focused a lot around character, but they both are going to be able to do something that's going to help transform either your mind or your actual wrestling ability. One tool is called the All-In Journal. You guys know about it. I created it for wrestlers. It's designed by a wrestler myself for wrestlers. And then the other tool is the All-In Wrestling System. And the All-In Wrestling System is what formed me as a wrestler growing up. And then over 25 years of sport of wrestling, I crafted it into a tool that's super easy to understand and simple. So if you've heard any of my stuff before, you probably know about the All-In Wrestling System, and you probably know about the All-In Journal. I highly encourage you to get it. It's very affordable, and I think it's a tool that can help make a life-changing impact, and allow you to go shock the world. Okay, allow you to go shock the system with amazing performance, but more importantly, with an amazing character, with being an amazing person. So guys, I wish you guys luck during this Christmas season. I wish you guys my best wishes in all your training and all your pursuit of your goals. But just keep things in perspective. Understand, it's not that gold medal that's wrapped around your chest. You can go down the road and buy one of those for 75 cents if you want at a trophy store. Okay, but it's more about the process and the journey and in the man that you're becoming. Long rant today, but I kind of got emotional, and I just wanted to share that, guys, with you guys. So take care. Check out allinjournal.com and allinwrestlingsystem.com. Love you guys. Peace out.